Greetings and horns up, Cover Killer Nation. Now, of course, I told you guys that for 9,000 subscribers, I was going to do a question and answer video for the first time in probably about 2 years. So I've gotten over 200 different replies on that video, so I think it's time for me to get started. Now, this is going to be something that's going to be done in multiple parts, so I'm going to try to go maybe 10 or 11 minutes per section. That way it doesn't get too boring, but that way it also ensures that each and every question is answered as we progress. So, let's get started. But first, before I do that, thank you all for all of the support and all of the questions. The very first one that we got was from the Castle Boss. It said, what albums are you most looking forward to in the coming months? Congratulations on 9K, by the way. You deserve it. Thanks. There's a lot of great albums that are upcoming in the metal universe, or really just in the rock and roll universe. There is new albums from Rotting Christ, Spiritual Beggars, the new Soilwork is supposed to drop. Eternal Tears of Sorrow is literally right around the corner. And then there's ones that are a little bit further out, where we don't necessarily have a concrete date, but at the same time we do know that they are coming. For example, there's the new Alice in Chains album, which we just got the announcement of the title for. The dinosaur, or the devil put the dinosaurs on Earth, or some ridiculous BS like that. And those are albums that have a certain amount of acclaim and hype for me, at least, because I'm a huge fan of Alice in Chains, as you guys all know. So, literally, this is a list that just grows every single day as more and more information becomes available. Those are just a couple of absolutely many that I could really ramble off if I had, 20 minutes. Kodera the Great, rather, says, what is your favorite Blind Guardian album? Man, Imaginations from the Other Side, and Night at the Opera. There's a lot really to choose from. I mean, Blind Guardian is a really, really good band, and I feel like some of their past output throughout the past, 10 years or so has really been extremely strong. And their discography is the type where you kind of, you know the sound going in, but you're not exactly sure of how it's going to be represented, how they really do it, and I really like this band for that reason. They seem to always take a lot of care and time whenever they present and package their albums, so it's really hard to pinpoint a direct favorite, but A Night at the Opera was one that really struck me. I mean, I really love that album a lot, and I have a feeling that there's going to be a couple people that mirror that sentiment. How about Varg is as King? If you've never gotten into metal, or metal never existed in the first place, what would you view yourself listening to? So what would you be listening to primarily if metal didn't exist, or if you didn't get into metal? Probably a lot of alternative rock, probably a lot of indie rock. I might be one of those people that never extended further than the classic rock or the classic, oldies, because that's kind of what I grew up on whenever I was a kid. So I think that it would still be within the rock realm. I don't think that I would be listening to rap. That was a very short-lived part of my life where I was listening to nothing but rap, because I think that rock just always had that sound to it, that allure, kind of that seduction, and I think that there would be a really great market for me right now in the independent scene, so you might see me, reviewing more along the lines of the indie or the underground rock scene right now, as opposed to the metal scene. The Vash Fan 12392 asks, good to know I helped with it, but you also keep me updated on new albums and stuff like that. But you kind of missed one, End of Disclosure by Hypocrisy. Yeah, Hypocrisy, huh? Well, didn't know about that, so I'm sorry, I guess. And Elohim has favorite Cradle of Filth album. I know you've listened to them a fair bit. Mine is Cruelty and the Beast. Oh man, this is kind of a rough one. I really enjoyed. Oh man, this is definitely a really, really tough question. I like Dusk and Her Embrace. I do also like Cruelty and the Beast. I actually enjoyed Midian quite a bit. It's hard to pinpoint one with this, because Cradle has definitely evolved their sound quite a good bit. And even though their most recent couple of albums haven't really stimulated me too much, with the exception of Manticore, which I thought was a really nice return to form, this is a band where I don't know if I could really pinpoint a favorite. I think it's just something that I enjoy listening to every so often. They're kind of a temperamental band for me. I listened to a good bit of them during a period a number of years ago. In fact, I went from kind of really hating them to really liking them to now just kind of being neutral about them. So I would say probably either Midian, or I'd almost have to agree with Cruelty and the Beast. It's just a hell of an album. It's really hard to top it. Let's see, we have Metal Vocalist Wanted asking, you've probably covered this already, but what single artist or band can you pinpoint as first getting you into heavy metal? There's a couple different bands that I could target, Metallica being one. You know, I really enjoyed the thrash scene, so once I got into Metallica, Megadeth and Flotsam and Jetsam were the next logical steps because that's where the members came and went. Exodus is another example. Iron Maiden was one that my friend Rob and I both discovered at right around the same time thanks to the ECW The Music compilation where Bruce Dickinson did a cover of The Zoo by the Scorpions, and because of that we got into his solo work, but more notably Iron Maiden, because that was right around the time that Brave New World came out. So I would say Metallica was probably one of the first that really got me into it, but the one that really sold me, and I think really sold my friend Rob also, was Iron Maiden. So there you have it. Denga HD, I was within your 200 to 300 subscribers. Wow, you've been a long-time follower. Thanks for the support, dude. What do you think of Dream Theater and or Dark Tranquillity? Dream Theater, I think, is a fantastic progressive metal band. They definitely have drawn on a lot of influences from the past. A lot of those influences they've documented in their covers, but at the same time they've created their own style and kind of brought progressive metal back into a little bit of vogue. Whenever they were first starting out, there was still a lot of the leftovers from the 1980s prog scene, and then as the 90s continued, there would be new bands that would pop up. One of my favorites, by the way, of the underground, they're a little bit more of an underground band. Not too many people have heard of this band. It was Enchant. I really, really loved Enchant. But Dream Theater themselves had a tremendous string of albums to the point where Metropolis 2, Scenes from a Memory, is one of my top 25 albums of all time. It's one of the most perfect releases that I have ever heard, and it's able to tell a very complex story, but in a way in which you can follow it, and the music really just sets the mood right along with it. I really like the addition of Mike Mangini to their ranks. Their last album, A Dramatic Turn of Events, was definitely good, but I also feel as though the next time that they hit the studio and release a record, I think it's going to be even better, because now I think Mike's going to have the opportunity to really showcase what he's able to bring to the table. As for Dark Tranquillity, they're definitely a bona fide classic of the melodic death metal department, and they've had their kind of ups and downs throughout their career, but they've definitely come back strong with their last couple of albums, so I have absolutely no complaints whenever it comes to Dark Tranquillity. King Ding 6. Nice. What do you think of the Aristocrats and that kind of jazz slash fusion slash rock music? I really haven't heard much from them, to be honest. Whenever you said that, I almost said the Aristocats, the Disney movie, and that movie's awesome. But I really haven't heard much, so I really can't say much about it. But thank you for your question. The Needle Drop, congrats. Very cool. Hey, man, congratulations to you. I mean, you have definitely been the big influence here. Over 100,000 subscribers for the Needle Drop. If you guys haven't subscribed to the Needle Drop, by the way, what are you waiting for? Great stuff over there. Not always metal. In fact, it's seldom metal, but he does cover some metal. The guy just has one hell of a diverse palette. Check him out. Brain666BL, what was the first group you remember that really got you into music? Also, is there one particular group that you listen to that would surprise all of your subscribers? The group that really got me into music that I can remember is the first group that I ever considered doing a performance for and did whenever I was in like the first or second grade with a friend of mine. It's the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys got me into it because that harmony was something that was really one of a kind, that they really boasted in their music, and everything about it just seemed very fun. Even whenever the tone of the song wasn't necessarily positive, it still sounded like the guys were having, a good time. You reflect upon that years later and realize the depression, and you realize the different things that were going on during the creation of this music, and it's overwhelming how wrong you were at some points in time. One particular group that I would listen to that would surprise a lot of my subscribers. I don't know if you guys would be surprised by anything. I mean, I remember being on Blog TV playing Justin Timberlake and T.I. and, a couple of other groups like that. So I really don't know if that would be all that surprising to you guys. But, nothing really comes to mind. I think you guys have come to the point with me where I have listened to just about anything. I will say this. Here's a surprise for you, though. The last Little Big Town album, I know that I really have bashed the living fuck out of country. However, the last Little Big Town album, entitled Tornado, I had absolutely no hope for because Pontoon was just that terrible of a song. But whenever you listen to the remainder of the album, it's actually quite good. It has this nice little charm to it where the songs are different, and it does kind of like the Beach Boys. I'm just taking this whole conversation full circle. It has great harmony. So, I mean, there you go. There's actually a modern country album that I like. So, get off my back. Let's see. What do you think about the auto-tune, says Zenitram ES. Zenitram ES, I think it's one of the 5 things that is killing the music business today, and it is useless unless you're using it as a joke. QWERTY Zebra asks, what are your top 5 progressive bands? Well, you have to have Porcupine Tree and Dream Theater on there. I'd probably throw on Kansas. I would also throw on Yes for sure. Yes is definitely one of the most important groups, and I think for posterity's sake, you almost have to say Marillion, because Marillion has been one of those long-lasting bands that maybe not necessarily has always gotten the respect that they deserve, but they definitely are fantastic. Now, why wouldn't I throw on a band like Rush? I probably might interchange them with Enchant, because Enchant's kind of a little lesser known, and Rush is a little bit more of a prominent force. However, well, I'm almost out of time, but the difference is that with Rush, they borderline sometimes on classic rock, as their sound has definitely shifted. Tears of Apathy is going to be our last one for today. Actually, no, I'm going to do one after that. What are your thoughts on bands using sites like Kickstarter to produce CDs or for a new tour bus? I haven't really heard of this, so I don't know very much about it. You know, if it's something that they want to do and if it's fair, I don't know enough about the Kickstarter or anything like that in order to kind of realize what it's all about, so maybe I'm just ignorant in that regard. However, if it's something that's going to help their career a little bit and it's not something that's being done for the wrong reasons, so to speak, I think it's okay. But if this is something where they're using this because it's either cheap or it's illegal, you know, it's something where they are gaining this money or these objects through a means that is not true to music, then I really don't know how I feel about it. Like I said, I don't know enough about Kickstarter to really mention anything in effect. And then finally, we get the Mudkip effect. Do you play video games at all? Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I don't have a lot of time to do so. However, I love old games from the NES, the Super NES. I used to own an Xbox 360, but now it's a huge paperweight. I also owned a Sega Genesis. I had a PlayStation at one point in time, the PlayStation 1. The Nintendo 64. I have a GameCube. I've played games off the PlayStation 2. Owned one for a very brief period of time. It was more like a hostage. Played stuff on Atari, I actually am quite a large follower of the AVGN for one, and for two, I really like watching old games being played on YouTube. So SSOHPKC, Dave the Usher, and a couple of others are people that I watch quite frequently whenever it comes to this stuff. And Raukow's another one. I just recently started getting into some Deceased Crab stuff where he's taking me back to old games that I remember playing, like Aladdin for the SNES or Little Nemo the Dream Master for the NES. I had quite an expansive collection whenever I was a kid that is probably locked up in storage here somewhere. But at the same time, I don't really have a lot of time, but I've still been able to discover some new games on those old systems today. Like about a week ago, for the very first time ever, I played the game Gunnak, which is a later NES title that it's one of those space shooters, but damn! Not only is it challenging, but it also is just visually beautiful. I mean, there's just shitloads of things happening on the screen at once. It's very challenging, but at the same time, it's also one of those games that's very difficult to put down. It has a great score to it. And one of my favorite games of all time would have to be The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past on the SNES. It's, to me at least, probably one of the most perfect games of all time. That's it for part one, guys. We have a long way to go, but we're going to get to each and every one of these questions, even if some of them are repeats. So stick tight, and your question will certainly be answered. Thank you once again for 9,000.